Welcome back to Jamaica Made Me Do It. I'm Kristi, and this is my little spot on the internet where I love to talk about all the weird, wild, wonderful things that I've experienced throughout 15 years of traveling all around Jamaica. So a little bit of backstory here. Before this YouTube channel ever existed, I spent 10 years running a blog called Jamaica My Way. If you had traveled to Jamaica between about 2009 and 2019-ish, there's a decent chance that you may have stumbled across it because it was pretty high up in Google ranks in Jamaica blogs at the time. I wasn't a travel influencer back then because influencing wasn't really a thing yet. I just was writing honest stories and reviewed accommodations all over the island. I shared tons of hidden gems before they became tourist traps. And basically I documented my life on the island. And over time the blog became one of the biggest independent Jamaica travel blogs around. It was actually kind of surreal because people all over the world started planning their vacations using my articles as reference. Eventually and inevitably, I suppose, people started recognizing me, not because I was famous, but because our little Jamaica community was surprisingly close-knit. I mean, social media was a thing. I had a huge Facebook group and Facebook following for my blog. And some of those encounters through the years were actually pretty hilarious. Here's one of my most memorable. One morning, I was staying in a vacation condo in Runaway Bay that I had been hired to promote. The owners had hired me to promote it on my blog. So I walked out onto the veranda one morning with my coffee and I stuck it on the railing, snapped a picture. This is the exact picture. And I posted it on Instagram and the caption just said, "Good morning from beautiful Runaway Bay." That was it. And about 10 minutes later, knock, knock, knock. I opened the front door and this woman is standing there. She smiles and she's like, "Are you Kristi?" Apparently I was. She introduced herself as Wendy, another Canadian actually, who had been reading my blog for years. And she happened to be renting another condo in the exact same complex. When she saw my coffee photo on Instagram, she immediately recognized the veranda and thought, I know exactly where she is. Turns out I recognized her name as well because we had chatted online several times before. And then it got even better. She actually lived in Jamaica and owned a little bar across the road. She still does, actually. It's called Just One More. Brilliant name for a bar in Jamaica. It's called Just One More and it's in Runaway Bay. So naturally, I ended up hanging out there and eventually featured her bar on my blog as well. That's just kind of how my life worked back then. It was one random encounter turned into another story and another friendship and so on and so on. Now, I know some people might hear this and think that's a little creepy that strangers knew exactly where you were. Honestly, maybe a little, but it happened so often that it eventually just became normal. And most of the time it actually turned into something totally wonderful. Like if you've watched any of my videos, you know how I stumble across strangers and then it turns into a fantastic event. Like the time I was way down in Black River at karaoke night at Cloggy's on the beach. Now, I may or may not have been several drinks into the evening. I had just finished giving the crowd what I thought was a Grammy-worthy Tina Turner performance. The crowd might remember it differently. I stepped off the stage and this random guy walks over and says, "Hey, aren't you Jamaica My Way?" Nothing humbles you quite like being recognized immediately after drunk karaoke. I was a little embarrassed, but also my inhibitions were down. So I was like, yeah, that's me. And it was a fantastic meeting. And there was another time I was at a Jack Cure concert at Roots Bamboo in Negril, just totally random event. Somebody asked me to go there last minute. A woman walked up and said, "Hey, aren't you Kristi from Jamaica My Way?" And again, apparently I was. And this just kept happening all around the island over a period of many years. One of my favorite encounters of all time, though, it happened in 2017. And at that time, I was actually living in middle quarters down south. If you've ever been to Jamaica, you'll know that most tourists stay pretty much to the touristy spots. The South Coast is a lot quieter, it's less developed, far fewer tourists. So when you do run into them, it's a little bit more noticeable. And one day, the manager of one of my favorite little guest cottages called me. I had stayed there many times before I had my own apartment on the South Coast. And so the manager there, he called me and he said, Kristi, I've got this European couple staying here. They're backpacking around Jamaica and could really use some advice for the rest of their journey. Would you mind coming over? Of course, I said, sure. I was about 20 minutes away. I left the house and I went there. And when I got there, I met the cutest young couple from Poland. And they were backpacking all over the island for a couple of weeks. What surprised me was how they had even found this tiny little guest cottage. It was called Paradise Ocean View, and it's literally for like tiny round cottages, only big enough to hold a double bed, I think, double or a queen bed, and a toilet. Like it was they're so small. These are the actual cottages. And it wasn't exactly famous or well known. So I asked them, I said, how on earth did you end up here? And they said, oh, we found it on a blog called Jamaica My Way. I just started laughing because that was me. That was my blog. And so when I told them, that's me, they were like, oh my God, no way. What a small world. Like the guest cottage didn't even have a website, but I had written about it years earlier when I first discovered it. And somehow these two backpackers from Poland had found that article on my blog. They trusted it enough to book the place. And then they ended up meeting the person who wrote it. What are the odds? And then they ended up asking if I would like to take them out that night and show them a little bit of the South Coast of whatever nightlife exists on the South Coast. And we had an absolute blast. We actually went over to Luana's and they have karaoke as well. So we went over there, and before this little couple continued with the rest of their trip around Jamaica, they had given me a gift. They said that they packed several little souvenirs from Poland to hand out to locals they met during their travels. And so they gifted me with a coffee mug. I still have that mug to this day. It's packed right now because I'm moving soon, so I can't show you, but I do still have that mug and I'll always keep it just as a souvenir of meeting them. And when I think back on those 10 years of running Jamaica My Way, those are the moments I remember the most. Not page views or traffic or social media numbers. That was never the reason I was in it. It was the people, the conversations, and the chance encounters. And the feeling that something I wrote actually helped someone have a better trip or discover a place they never would have found otherwise in Jamaica. I honestly lost count of how many times someone walked up to me and said, hey, aren't you Kristi, or aren't you from Jamaica My Way? And for 10 wonderful years, the answer was always yes. That's one of the biggest reasons that this channel exists today, because those stories and those people, they're still some of my favorite memories I've ever made in Jamaica. And the stories are still worth telling. I'm just telling them in a different way now. Here's a little footnote actually about Jamaica My Way. I sold the trade name and the assets, the social media assets of Jamaica My Way in 2023 after retiring the blog. And the woman who purchased it never did anything with it. The last time I saw, she announced that she was also selling the name and the social assets. So if you think that you have the chops to carry the torch of a kind of a household name in the Jamaica blog world, the link to her contact info, it'll be in the description below, because I think she's still trying to sell it. I reached out to her and she said yes. Now it's time for you to subscribe to my channel and like all my stuff. And go check out this video that touches on how writing about Jamaica changed my whole life. I'm Kristi, and this is Jamaica Made Me Do It, and we will see you next time. Little more.